Hello everyone. As in the last class of acid base 1, we saw about the definition of acids and bases based on different theories as Arrhenius theory, Lowry-Bronsted theory and Lewis acid and base. Their concept of acid and base. And their classification, acid base reactions, all about that we studied in acid base 1. So in this class further we'll study about what is salt, types of salts and properties of salts, and also brief about buffers and indicators. So the objectives are, as I told, salts and buffers and indicators. So what do you mean by salts? They are chemically defined as the neutral product formed as a result of a reaction between an acid and an alkali. So when there is a reaction undergoes with acid and base, there forms a salt and water. So here the types of salts as follows: the table salt, kosher salt, sea salt. The most commonly used salts in the kitchen will be table salt, and a type of crystalline edible salt which is a coarser as compared to the table salt, but it has a large size grains, so that's a kosher salt. And sea salt will be obtained by the evaporation of a sea water. And the next, grey salt, also called as cell grease. This grey salt is a courage grain salt obtained from Brittany. It's unrefined sea salt, and that is light grey in color. Next is fleur de sel. This salt is also obtained from the region in Brittany by their name called flower of salts. So this salt is also collected manually using only wooden tools. And next, Hawaiian sea salt is also known as LA. This salt is also obtained by adding LA, a volcanic clay, to the sea salt. So it gives a salt a reddish tinge. And the last one is rock salt. This differs from most other varieties of salt for the fact that is mined from under the earth and not obtained from the seawater. And next we'll see the properties of salt as color. The potassium dichromate is a bright orange salt used as a pigment. So based on the color, we'll see the properties of it. Salt can appear to be clear and transparent also, as sodium chloride. It's a transparent, and in many cases apparent opacity or transparency are only related to the difference in size of the individual monocrystals. And here larger crystals tend to be transparent, while the polycrystalline aggregates look like the white color powder. So these salts exist in many different colors also. As an example, sodium chromate, it's a yellow or orange, and potassium dichromate will be red, and the blue one has a copper sulfate pentahydrate or ferric hexacyanoferrate, and the purple will be potassium permanganate, and the green nickel chloride hexahydrate. So colorless has sodium chloride, magnesium sulfate. And comes to the taste, different salts can elicit all 5 basic taste. Example, salty taste as in sodium chloride, sweet as lead diacetate, and sour potassium bitartrate. Bitter taste will be magnesium sulfate, and savory as in monosodium glumate. And next property will be conductivity. Here solid salts do not conduct electricity, however liquid salts do. So moreover, solutions of salt also conduct electricity. So when salt is dissolved in a solution, it conducts electricity. And next we'll see the order. As salts of strong acids and strong bases are non-volatile and colorless, whereas the salts of either weak acids or weak bases may smell after the conjugate acid, and cyanides like hydrogen cyanide or the conjugate base of the component ions. So that slow partial decomposition is usually accelerated by the presence of water, since hydrolysis is the other fault of a reversible reaction equation of formation of weak salts. So as a order, the strong salts of strong acids and strong bases will be orderless. And next, the solubility of ionic compounds in water. Many ionic compounds can be dissolved in water or other similar solvents also. So the solubility depends on how well each ion interacts with the solvent. So there are certain patterns. For example, all salts of sodium, potassium and ammonium are soluble in water, as all nitrates and many sulfates like sulfate, barium sulfate, calcium sulfate and lead sulfate are examples of exceptions. And however, ions that bind tightly to each other and form highly stable lattices are less soluble. So because it is harder for these structures to break apart for the compounds to dissolve, so it will be less soluble. And for example, most carbonate salts are not soluble in water, such as lead carbonate and barium. So comes to the characteristics of salts as water of crystallization. In this we can see it's defined as the definite amount of water that some substance chemically combine when they form salt, and such salts are refers to as hydrated salts. So when heated, they give off their respective water of crystallization, and by so doing become anhydrous salt. So this is the characteristic of salt. Next will be the hygroscopic, as this is the phenomena in which a substance absorbs moisture, or it absorbs the water molecules from the atmosphere when exposed and does not turn into solution. So when it exposed to the atmosphere, it does not turn into solution, so but merely becomes sticky or moist. So this characteristic is a hygroscopic. As we can see in example, sodium trioxonitrate and potassium trioxonitrate sulfuric acid. So hygroscopic substances are commonly employed as a drying agents or desiccants. So next we'll see the indicators. So what are indicators? The pH indicator is a halochromic chemical compound. It is used to determine the pH of another solution. And these pH indicators are weak acids that exist as a natural dyes. So we can see the types of indicators. The choice of the indicator depends upon the nature of the reaction. And there are three basic types of indicators as acid-base indicators, redox indicators, precipitation indicators. So for the quantitative analysis of metal cations, the use of complexometric indicators is mostly preferred. So first we'll see the acid-base indicators as the compounds, mostly organic compounds, which change their color when pH of the solution changes. So the indicators are used to check the pH of the solution. So it's a basic or acidic, we have to know about the solution means we'll be using a pH indicator to check their pH and indicate the end point, that is completion of the reaction. So while doing titration with the acid and the base, to check the end point or the completion of a reaction, we'll be using the indicators. And at 25 degrees Celsius, consider the standard temperature. The pH value of a neutral solution will be 7. As solutions with a pH value below 7 are considered as acidic, and whereas solutions with a above the value of 7 are basic. So as most naturally occurring organic compounds are weak carboxylic acids and amines. So pH indicators find many applications in biology and analytical chemistry. So these are the organic compounds which are used in acid-base titrations, as acid-base indicators respond to a change in the hydrogen ion concentration. So most of the indicators are themselves weak acids, other are weak bases which responded to change hydroxide ion concentration. So most common indicator is found on litmus paper. It's a red below pH 4.5 and blue above the 8 point. So here we can see acid and base. As acid turns red to blue, while base turns red litmus to blue, whereas acid blue litmus to red. So in these indicators, one demonstration experiments will be showing as magic picture demonstration. As here phenolphthalein is an indicator of acids, that's colorless, and bases to pink. So sodium hydroxide is a base and it was in the picture at the beginning. So when added to the phenolphthalein in beakers 2 and 4, so there we are taking a 4 beakers where we are adding a phenolphthalein to a acid. So when added to the phenolphthalein in beaker 2 and 4, it turned pink. So as an explanation, it's converts a colorless to the pink. So the equilibrium shifts right, the decreases and in increases as the pH increase between 8.2 to 10, the color becomes red. So because of the equilibrium shifts from mostly in ions. So here we can see the demonstration picture. So here this is the common indicators used as methyl violet, thymol blue, methyl yellow, bromophenol blue, methyl orange, methyl red, litmus, bromothymol blue, phenol red, phenolphthalein, and alizarin yellow. So here the forms of the indicator at color change the point. So broadly we can see as pH range indicators for the individual indicators. So phenolphthalein, it acts as colorless to pink color for solution. pH range will be 8.3 to 10, whereas methyl orange, it turns red to orange 3.1 to 4.4, and methyl red, red to yellow, it's a 4.4 to 6 pH, and a bromothymol blue from yellow to blue color, and the pH will be 6 to 7.6, and the litmus, it changes from color red to blue as pH 5 to 8. So while doing the titration, we'll be using a word as endpoint. So what is an endpoint? In an acid-base titration, so where we are doing a titration between acid and base, the base solution is gradually added from a burette into an acidic solution in a titration flask. So in flask we will be taking a acidic solution, where in the burette a basic solution will be added, and when the amount of base added neutralized to the amount of base added in the flask, so equivalence point of end point will reached. So when we are slowly adding a base to the acidic solution which is present in conical flask, it reaches a point where the acid and base will be get neutralized. So that is called endpoint. The endpoint of the titration is shown by color changes of an indicator. So the endpoint we can see as the colorless to the pink, while when adding phenolphthalein as an indicator, it changes. So like that we can see the change of an in color and previously added to the acidic solution in the titration flask. So then functions of an indicators, how phenolphthalein is behaving in different pH. So we can see here phenolphthalein, it's a colorless to form a red or pink. So near pH 8 indicator dissociates and gives red base. Human eye can detect it as a pink tinge at the pH. So indicators must be carefully chosen so that their color changes take place at the pH values expected for an aqueous solution of the salt produced in the titration. So in these indicators we usually see universal indicator. As a universal indicator is a mixture of indicators which give a gradual change in color over a wide range of pH. So the pH of a solution can be approximately identified when a few drops of universal indicators are mixed with the solution. So widely we can see the change in color over the pH range. So there are now also available wide range pH test papers with a distinct color for each pH from 1 to 14. So color matching charts are supplied with a specific test strip purchase. So the universal indicator is made from magnesium hydroxide with a pH of 4. A universal indicator is typically composed of water, propanol and phenolphthalein, sodium salt, sodium hydroxide, methyl red, bromothiamyl blue, monosodium salt and thymol blue monosodium salt. So here the molecular basis for the indicator color change in phenolphthalein indicator is, in molecular structure we can see the hydrogen ions becomes minus here, that is colorless to pink as a negative ion. So hydrogen ion lost, so it becomes a pink. So as a phenolphthalein is a chemical compound with the formula as given here and is often written as PH or cap HLN. So in shortened notation also we can use. Phenolphthalein is often used as an indicator in titrations. For these applications it turns colorless in acidic solutions to pink in basic solutions. So phenolphthalein is insoluble in water and usually is dissolved in alcohols for use in experiments, and it's a weak acid which can lose H plus ions in solutions. The phenolphthalein molecule is colorless and the phenolphthalein ion is pink. So as it's a weak acid, when added to the strong acid which is present in conical flask, while added to the even base, it loses its ions, hydrogen ions, and forms a negative and becomes pink color. And the next indicator will be litmus, as we'll be using in labs. So litmus is a water soluble mixture of different dyes extracted from lichens. It is often absorbed into filter papers to produce one of the oldest forms of pH indicator. So used to test materials for acidity. Blue litmus paper turns red under acidic conditions and red litmus paper turns blue under basic condition. So neutral litmus paper is purple. Litmus can also be prepared as an aqueous solution that functions similarly, and under acidic conditions the solution is red, and under basic conditions the solution will be blue. So next we'll see the methyl orange. It's also an indicator as frequently used in titrations because of its color and distinct color change. Because it changes color at the pH of a mid-strength acid, it's usually used in titrations for acids. Unlike a universal indicator, methyl orange does not have a full spectrum of color change. As in universal indicator, we can see a full spectrum of color change here, but it has a sharper end point. So we'll be using in a titrations. And in a solution becoming less acidic, methyl orange moves from red to orange and finally to yellow with the reverse occurring for a solution increasing in acidity. So to a solution to become acidic, methyl orange moves from red to orange. Finally to yellow with the reverse occurring for a solution. And bromothiamol blue as a also known as bromothiamol sulfone phthalate. It's a pH indicator for weak acids and bases. So it's mostly used in applications that require measuring substance that would have a relatively neutral pH, that is 7, such as managing the pH of pools and fish tanks. So a common use is for measuring the presence of carbonic acid in a liquid. It's typically sold in solid form as the sodium salt of an indicator. And next we'll see the buffer. As a buffer is a compound or mixture of compounds which when present in a solution resist changes in pH upon the addition of small quantities of acids and bases. So buffer system follows the Chatelier's principle. So buffers are significant in maintaining the pH of living system. So we can see the types of buffer as acidic and basic, where acidic combination of weak acid and its salt with strong base, where basic buffer will be combination of weak bases and its salt with a strong acid. So the action of a buffer, the mechanism of action in acidic buffer. So we will be seeing in acidic condition. As let us consider a buffer system of acetic acid. It's a when adding small amount of an acid, that is HCl, it gives H plus and chloride ions, and the water molecules with the H plus ions it gives carbonic acid, and that is reacted with the acetic acid to form fully acetic acid. So while adding small amount of a base as an NaOH, it releases Na plus and OH minus ions. When OH minus reacts with the H3O plus to gives water molecules. So if you come to the basic buffer, the mechanism action of a basic buffer will be ammonium hydroxide and ammonium chloride. That is when adding small amount of a base, that is NaOH, the NaOH as usual it gives Na plus plus OH minus, where the OH minus reacts with the ammonium gives ammonium hydroxide. So when adding small amount of an acid, that is HCl, it gives H plus and chloride minus, as we know, and these H plus ions react with the water molecules to form H3O plus, and later these H3O plus reacts with the hydroxyl ion to form a water molecules. So this is the mechanism of acid and basic buffer. This mechanism of acid and basic buffers follows the Anderson-Hasselbalch equation. Already we discussed in last class about the equation Anderson and Hasselbalch. So under acid buffer and a basic buffer, as acetic acid and ammonium hydroxide, how it acts by the equation we can see, and the pH will be equal to pKa plus log salt divided by acid in case of acidic buffer, and pH of a hydroxyl ion is equal to pKb plus log salt divided by the base in basic buffer. So the capacity of buffer, so we need to know the buffer capacity. It's a Efficiency of a buffer solution to resist pH on addition of small amount of acid or base. Buffers can resist pH change up to plus or minus 1 unit of its buffering zone. So buffering capacity will be defined as amount of acid or base added divided by the change in pH. So it's called buffering capacity. And we'll see the applications of buffer as in pharmaceutical preparation to adjust the pH of drug and medicine in order to minimize the drug degradation and to improve patient's comfort. We'll be using as buffer, and the drugs supplied through injections are maintained at an ideal pH of 7.4 as that of blood, and buffers used in injections are acetate, phosphate, citrate, etc. Buffers like borate, carbonate, phosphate are used in ophthalmic preparations to maintain the pH of the medicine within the range of lacrimal fluid, that is 7 to 8. And as in laboratory, to calibrate pH meter for determination of a pH of water, soil, food and other samples. And to carry out various biological research such as DNA and RNA isolation and also protein crystallization, we will be using buffers in laboratory. And in industrial preparation, it's used to ensure stability of ointments and creams on applied areas like skin to set up approximate conditions for dyeing fabrics, and also to set up approximate conditions for fermentation process in food production. So these are the applications of buffer, and here we can see some of list of commercial buffers as phosphate buffer, citrate, acetate, carbonate, bicarbonate buffer, tris acetate, that is EDTA buffer, and tris borate, EDTA buffer, that is TBE. And what are the composition comes under phosphate buffer as sodium phosphate, it's a dibasic, plus sodium phosphate monobasic with distilled water and HCl or NaOH, and the pH range will be 6.3 to 7.36. The uses as ophthalmic preparations in biological research, as in citrate buffer, citric acid plus sodium citrate, distilled water plus HCl or NaOH. It ranges from 3 to 6.2, used in pharmaceutical preparations and in biological research and also RNA isolation. And acetate buffer as sodium acetate plus acetic acid and distilled water with the HCl or NaOH, ranges from 4 to 4.26 to 5.26, as used in purification and precipitation of nucleic acids and protein crystallization. So carbonate, bicarbonate buffer as sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate and distilled water plus HCl. It ranges from 9.2 to 10.6, whereas used in protein coating in enzyme, that is immunoassay technique, and dairy product preservation. So EDTA buffer, it ranges from 8 to 8.5 as used in DNA and RNA extraction by gel electrophoresis. So commonly we'll using this tris acetate buffer in electrophoresis. And also TBE, EDTA buffer, it's used in gel electrophoresis. It's also used in gel electrophoresis. In biological system, criteria of good biological buffer means the buffer, we can call it as good biological buffer as it should have the qualities as solubility, it should be soluble in water, and permeability as freely permeable to cell membrane, it should permeable, and ionic strength and inheritance as should not hide enzyme activity, and the UV absorption as light absorption should be within 230 nanometer and should not interfere with the spectrophotometric studies in biological research. So these are the 4 criteria to have in a good biological buffer. So we can see as biological buffer, phosphate buffer, HB, and protein buffer will be using in acid base disorders to come over. So as the conclusion, we saw about acid base, the completion of acid base, terms, definition, types and theories of different uh, concepts and their classification, and also acid base reactions and formation of a salt, types of salt and uses of it and properties of salts, and also the buffer, types of buffer, acid and basic buffers, and also indicators, that is types and their pH range and composition, and also uses of the indicators. This ends with this. Thank you.